Disclaimer: the content provided on Lessons to Wisdom is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to replace professional medical, financial, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified professional for matters regarding your health, well-being, or specific concerns. The views expressed on this channel are those of the speakers and are based on their personal experiences and research.
Hey there, my friends. Have you ever sat down to a meal, looked at your plate piled high with veggies, and thought, I'm doing something great for my heart? I mean, we've all been told since we were kids to eat our greens, right? It's practically a rule of life. Vegetables are healthy, end of story. But what if I told you that some of those so-called healthy veggies on your plate might actually be working against your heart, especially now that you're over 60? I know, it sounds crazy, but stick with me here because this could be a game changer for your health. As we get older, our hearts need a little extra love. Heart disease is one of the top concerns for folks our age, and what we eat plays a huge role in keeping that ticker strong. But here's the thing, not all vegetables are created equal. Some of them, even the ones we think are super healthy, can actually put stress on your heart, mess with your blood pressure, or even clog up those arteries over time. I'm not here to scare you, but I am begging you to pay attention because small changes to what's on your plate can make a big difference in how you feel and how long you thrive. In this video, we're diving into 5 vegetables you need to rethink. Yes, rethink, because they could be quietly harming your heart. I'll explain why each one's a problem, and most importantly, what you can swap it out for to keep your meals delicious and your heart happy. By the end of this, you'll have practical, easy tips to tweak your diet and feel more energized, confident, and in control of your health. Ready? Let's jump right in with the first vegetable you might want to ease up on. First up, let's talk about corn. Oh, I know, corn on the cob at a summer barbecue is practically a tradition, isn't it? There's nothing like sinking your teeth into those sweet, juicy kernels. But here's the catch. Corn is one of those veggies that's more like a starchy grain in disguise. It's super high in carbohydrates, which can cause your blood sugar to spike and crash. Now, you might be thinking, what's that got to do with my heart? Well, those blood sugar spikes can put stress on your cardiovascular system over time. When your blood sugar swings, it can lead to inflammation in your blood vessels, and that's like rolling out the red carpet for heart problems. Plus, corn is often processed into things like corn syrup or served with heaps of butter and salt, which only add to the strain on your arteries. I'm not saying you have to swear off corn forever. Trust me, I'd miss those summer cookouts too. But if you're eating corn regularly, like in salads, soups, or as a side dish, it's time to cut back. Try swapping it for something like zucchini. Zucchini's low in carbs, packed with fiber, and has potassium, which helps keep your blood pressure in check. You can spiralize it into noodles, grill it, or toss it into a stir fry. One of my favorite tricks is slicing zucchini into thin rounds, tossing them with a little olive oil and herbs, and roasting them until they're golden. It's got that satisfying crunch without the heart-harming baggage. Give it a try this week. Maybe swap out the corn side dish for some roasted zucchini at your next dinner. Your heart will thank you. Now, let's move on to the second vegetable you might want to rethink, potatoes. I can already hear you saying, but potatoes are a staple. Mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, fries. Who doesn't love them? But here's the deal. Potatoes, especially white potatoes, are another starchy veggie that can mess with your heart health if you're eating them too often. Like corn, they're high in carbs and have a high glycemic index, which means they can send your blood sugar soaring. Over time, those spikes can damage your blood vessels and increase your risk of heart disease. Plus, let's be real, potatoes are rarely eaten plain. They're often loaded with butter, sour cream, cheese, or fried in oils that aren't so heart-friendly. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can never have a baked potato again. But if potatoes are showing up on your plate every day, it's time to mix things up. A great swap is sweet potatoes, but in moderation. Sweet potatoes have more fiber and nutrients like beta-carotene, which is great for your heart, and they don't spike your blood sugar as much. Try baking a sweet potato and topping it with a drizzle of olive oil and a sprinkle of cinnamon instead of piling on the butter. Or for something totally different, go for cauliflower. You can mash it just like potatoes. Add a little garlic and a splash of low-sodium broth, and it's creamy and delicious without the heavy starch. I know a friend who was skeptical about cauliflower mash, but once she tried it, she was hooked. She said it felt like comfort food without the guilt. You can even find pre-riced cauliflower at most grocery stores to make it super easy. So, we've covered corn and potatoes, two veggies that might be sneaking onto your plate more often than they should. But don't worry, we're not done yet. There are a few more vegetables you'll want to watch out for, and I'll share some super simple swaps to keep your meals tasty and heart healthy. Stick with me, because up next, we're diving into another surprising veggie that could be doing more harm than good. All right, my friends, let's keep this going. You're doing great sticking with me, and I promise this is going to be worth it for your health. We've already talked about how corn and potatoes can sneakily put stress on your heart with their high starch and blood sugar spikes. But there are a few more vegetables that might be showing up in your kitchen that you'll want to think twice about. These aren't the villains you might expect, but when you're over 60, your heart needs all the support it can get, and some veggies just don't pull their weight. Let's dive into the next one on our list and figure out how to make smarter choices for your plate. The third vegetable you might want to ease up on is canned green beans. Now I know what you're thinking. Green beans sound like the poster child for healthy eating. They're green, they're a vegetable, and they're so easy to grab from a can for a quick side dish. But here's the problem. Canned green beans are often loaded with sodium to preserve them and boost flavor. Too much sodium can raise your blood pressure, and high blood pressure is like a constant push against your heart and arteries, wearing them down over time. For a lot of us, that can increase the risk of heart attacks or strokes, which is the last thing we want. Plus, the canning process can strip away some of the nutrients that make fresh green beans so good for you in the first place. Now, I'm not saying you have to ditch green beans altogether. They can be part of a heart-healthy diet if you prepare them right. Instead of reaching for the canned version, try fresh or frozen green beans. Frozen ones are great because they're picked at their peak and keep more of their nutrients without the added salt. You can steam them with a little garlic and a splash of lemon juice for a flavor boost that's kind to your heart. I've got a friend, Mary, who's 68, and she used to rely on canned veggies because they were so convenient. But once she switched to fresh green beans and started sautéing them with a tiny bit of olive oil and some herbs, she said her dinners felt lighter and she had more energy. It's such an easy swap. Next time you're at the store, check the frozen aisle or grab some fresh green beans from the produce section. Your heart will feel the difference. Moving on, let's talk about the fourth vegetable that might be doing more harm than good: beets. Oh, beets are tricky, aren't they? They've got that gorgeous red color, and you've probably heard they're packed with antioxidants, which is true. But here's the catch. Beets are surprisingly high in natural sugars, which can cause those blood sugar spikes we talked about earlier. When your blood sugar goes up and down like a roller coaster, it creates inflammation in your body, and that inflammation can damage your blood vessels and put extra strain on your heart. Plus, a lot of folks eat beets pickled or canned, which, like canned green beans, can mean a big dose of sodium or added sugars that aren't doing your ticker any favors. Don't get me wrong, beets aren't all bad, and if you love them, you don't have to ban them from your life. The key is moderation and choosing better alternatives most of the time. Instead of beets, try swapping in leafy greens like spinach or kale. These greens are low in sugar, high in fiber, and loaded with heart-friendly nutrients like magnesium and folate. You can toss them into a salad, blend them into a smoothie, or even sauté them as a side dish. I know a gentleman named Tom who used to have pickled beets with lunch almost every day. When his doctor warned him about his blood pressure, he started mixing in spinach salads instead. He told me he feels less sluggish after meals now, and his doctor was thrilled with his latest checkup. If you're not a fan of leafy greens yet, start small. Maybe add a handful of spinach to your morning eggs. It's a small step that can make a big impact. We're making great progress here, learning how to tweak our diets to keep our hearts strong and healthy. We've covered canned green beans and beets, and I've got one more vegetable to share that might surprise you. It's something you probably see in your grocery store all the time, but it could be sneaking in some risks for your heart. Stick with me, because we're going to wrap this up with some super practical tips to make your meals both delicious and heart smart. All right, my friends, we're in the home stretch now, and I'm so glad you're here with me. We've been talking about how some vegetables, ones we've always thought of as healthy, might not be the best choice for our hearts, especially as we get older. So far, we've tackled corn, potatoes, canned green beans, and beets, each one sneaking in things like extra starch, sugar, or sodium that can put stress on your heart. But there's one more vegetable on our list that might catch you by surprise, and it's something you're probably tossing into your cart without a second thought. Let's dive into it and wrap this up with some easy ways to keep your meals tasty and your heart strong. The fifth vegetable you might want to rethink is eggplant. Now, I know eggplant can seem like a healthy pick. Maybe you're grilling it up for a Mediterranean dish or baking it into a cheesy eggplant parmesan. It's low in calories and has some fiber, so what's the problem? Well, eggplant is part of the nightshade family, and for some folks over 60, it can cause issues. Nightshades like eggplant contain compounds called glycoalkaloids, which in large amounts can trigger inflammation in sensitive individuals. Inflammation is like a slow burn in your body, and over time it can damage your blood vessels and make your heart work harder than it should. Plus, eggplant is often prepared in ways that aren't so heart-friendly. Think fried eggplant slices or dishes drowned in heavy sauces and cheese, which can pile on unhealthy fats and sodium. I'm not saying you have to ban eggplant completely, especially if you love it and it doesn't bother you. But if you're eating it regularly, it's worth cutting back and trying something gentler on your heart. A great swap is mushrooms. Mushrooms are low in calories, packed with antioxidants, and have potassium to help keep your blood pressure in check. They're also super versatile. You can sauté them, stuff them, or even grill them as a meaty side dish. I've got a neighbor, Susan, who's 72, and she used to make eggplant parmesan every Sunday. When she learned about the inflammation risks, she started swapping in portobello mushrooms instead. She seasons them with a little olive oil and herbs, bakes them until they're tender, and says they're just as satisfying. Next time you're craving that eggplant dish, grab some mushrooms instead and experiment. You might be amazed at how good they taste and how much lighter you feel. Now, let's take a moment to think about everything we've covered. We've gone through 5 vegetables, corn, potatoes, canned green beans, beets, and eggplant that might not be doing your heart any favors. Each one has its own way of sneaking in extra starch, sugar, sodium, or inflammation triggers that can add up over time, especially when you're over 60 and your heart needs a little extra care. But the good news is you don't have to give up flavor or feel deprived. By swapping in things like zucchini for corn, sweet potatoes or cauliflower for white potatoes, fresh or frozen green beans for canned, leafy greens like spinach for beets, and mushrooms for eggplant, you're giving your heart the support it needs to keep you feeling strong and vibrant. These aren't huge, overwhelming changes. They're simple tweaks you can start making today, like picking up a bag of frozen veggies or trying a new recipe this week. I know changing what's on your plate can feel daunting, especially if you've been cooking the same way for years. But trust me, small steps can lead to big results. Maybe start by picking one of these swaps to try this week. Say, roasting some zucchini instead of corn on the cob for your next dinner. Or maybe it's swapping out canned green beans for fresh ones at your next grocery trip. These little choices add up, and they're like giving your heart a warm hug every day. You deserve to feel your best, to have the energy to enjoy time with your grandkids, take that morning walk, or just savor a meal without worrying about what it's doing to your body. I'd love to hear from you. What's one vegetable swap you're excited to try? Or maybe you've already made some changes to your diet that have made a difference. Drop a comment below and share your story. It might inspire someone else watching this video. And if you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We're all about sharing practical tips to help you live your healthiest, happiest life. And there's so much more to come. Here's to making smart choices, one meal at a time. And here's to your heart. Keep it strong, keep it healthy, and keep living your best life at any age.